a lot of people seem to actually, well, I guess rightfully so, that they think that the gas stations, the two that they're set up, that they're actually open now. Which,
They're
yeah, I
not
know, I
open yet.
definitely I know they're not open, which is because that's something I've been
I
tracking.
called them
We
actually.
Ryan called them the other day
Yeah,
because I remember we
I
were
have to check
talking in
on
the
my
group.
investments.
We were
Right.
talking in the group with with a friend of ours, and he was looking to invest in it, and he was just like, we sometimes will bounce ideas off of each other, and I was like,
Hmm.
he was like, yeah, it's expected to be open in this, and I was like, how do you, or no, I think he said, oh, the gas stations are open. And I knew they weren't open, and I knew what they had said. So I was like, "Are you sure?" And he was like, wait, no, I'm not sure, because they, or I think the reason he said, "Oh, they said they were going to in the prospectus,"
Hmm.
but I'm like, that's a document that's what 2-3 months old. Have you checked? And then
All
he
right.
said, like, I think he maybe, I was like, why not go on like social media? That's something. Think same back to our same point about marketing. That should
Hmm.
well, I'm sure it will likely be under Instagram, but that definitely should be something under Instagram when they open it.
If they open it, they'd have to disclose it to the stock exchange anyway,
Mm,
because it's a material
yeah.
event.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
that kind of thing you can't, because that's going to have a significant impact on
Mhm,
the revenues, whichever
mhm,
way, you know. At the very least, the asset
Yeah.
base. So that would have been subject
mhm.
to
But the funny
disclosure.
part too is, imagine
Let's
measuring. I wish that you could measure how many people in Jamaica see the JSC notice of RPL saying that versus how many Jamaicans who invest would see it when it's posted on Instagram. That'd be, I think, an interesting metric to see. Like versus even in the paper and those
yeah.
stuff, because I definitely think it's probably actually more Instagram and those stuff.
Definitely. And even with how JSC releases information, sometimes they release it late. Sometimes it's days after the
Yeah,
fact.
that
Right.
really needs to, that need to work on
So,
that, man. I need to work on that.
hmm
You guys need to go to AGMs and tell them so they
No,
can
but the thing is,
learn.
it's
I
not,
think you're
well. Oh, I
quite
mean,
right.
AGMs or JSC. Sometimes it's not the company, Sometimes. Oh,
I
okay. No, I
know.
get what you're saying. Yeah, yeah,
hmm
No, you should beat them. I mean, I know them well and whatever, but yeah, give them two
yeah.
lick
No, they
and
should they should actually
shift
have
up.
some sort of penalty or something that isn't just like a little mosquito bite. It should be an amount that the company will say, okay, we can't afford to do this. We need to get our stuff sorted out.
Yeah, I think there's some 7 or 10, or I don't remember how many they rule around. I don't know the rules, but you're quite right. I think, how would I put this? The markets have developed really quickly. I think the oversight as a whole has to catch up.
yeah.
And I think we've seen what has happened when it has not caught up in one particularly grave circumstance. And I think the JSC does a lot of things well. They don't release news during trading hours, and that's very good. That's how it should be. I think, however, and they generally tend to get the earnings releases out before the deadlines, which is also good. Sometimes I come out the dead of night, fine. I mean, I check the site every half an hour, so once I'm awake. So and I need it because of my weekend review, so I'm always checking it. I think though that, as you've rightly said, I think they are now in need of entry into the new era.
Yeah.
I think Marlene and her team have done wonderfully to bring us along to this point. There's no question about it. But with the newer generation of investors, we
Yeah, we
need more.
demand more
We
actually.
need,
Yeah.
Even
we demand
I
more.
log into my JTrader and it's still,
Yeah.
well, I have there's an extension that you can use to make it bigger, but a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
people, if you log in, it's still this tiny window that you
Yeah.
have to scroll through to see just a few stocks. I'm just like, those are some simple things that could be changed, right? The layout, what they can
Mhm.
do. I remember they implemented, I forgot that they said they wanted to do the shorting. They implemented, I think, alerts and a few other things.
That will never happen, yeah?
The shorting, you think that'll never happen?
No,
There's
no.
even, I remember I even went to one of the, I think the JSC held a conference about shorting. Like they were trying to like teach and show us, and yeah, I got my hopes up.
Guys, you walk, a baby, you guys are doctors, right? So a baby is born, they
Hmm.
crawl, and then they walk. You don't turn Usain Bolt before you can even crawl properly. So please, we're not there
Oh
yet.
Man,
boy.
We're not there yet at all. We can't. If you're gonna short, you can't have trading glitches,
yeah.
right? That'll get you $1 billion lawsuits,
Mm,
and they will not win.
yeah.
And especially if you use the antecedents overseas, like with Facebook. But they need to step up. I mean, listen, they mean well, they've done all right, but
Mm.
the quantum leap.
Yeah.
I think I saw Shani say online that she wanted to apply to be CEO. And I said to her, you really should go for it.
Yeah. She really should.
Because I think Marlene's approaching retirement. So I was saying, I think you should go for it.
Some young.
We need that new energy. Because listen, the market has made so many people millionaires, right?
Exactly.
I will continue to.
It's facilitated.
Exactly. It's not like it's gonna
Yeah,
stop.
and
We
no, it's only gonna
boasted
get more
we
extreme.
boasted about being number one stock exchange in the world a couple times, but
Yeah,
the
yeah, 2015,
the
2018.
platform just doesn't
Yeah, over
show
the
it
over
like
like the
that.
last month, I think there've been like a good amount of issues. I ran into an issue just like 2 days ago. I was trying to buy some units or something, and it's like I set the order, and then I wasn't seeing it. You know, like when you set the buy on JTrader, you can see the pending order. I didn't see it pending, so I'm like, did it go through already? And so I refreshed it. Then I went to trades to check, and then it said pending, and I was like, what do you mean pending? Like the market is open. I'm seeing units trading. I or let me buy this. Like what? And then I had to end up canceling it, and then canceling it took a while. So I was worried because like, wait, does that
The
mean
money
that
bun up. The money
like
is just
am I gonna
gone.
now
Like
be stuck and I got to call them to get the money? And it's like it was kind of a time thing. So I was like, yo, I need to do this now. And then what ended up happening? Um, Even though I had clicked cancel, I think the trade technically filled before. So in the end, I just got the units. But I was just like, that whole process was just that shouldn't have happened, you
a lot
know?
of bugs. A couple weeks ago, I couldn't see the stocks I held. It was in the midst of the SSL saga. I was just like, yo, let me just check my units just to make sure I still have everything, you know. And I couldn't see it. And I messaged. I think I messaged in the same group, Preston. I was just like, yo, can you
What?
guys see units? And nobody could see their units. And I was just like, all right, it's not just me alone. This I don't know. A lot of glitches.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, have they upgraded something recently? Because I really just noticed the issues probably over like the last 3 weeks to 4 weeks. I've been seeing it in groups, and then now this happened to me. They even had to make a note. There was a time where had some big issue, and like people, there was issues with like the amount of money, and then they had to be calling their brokers, and then oh, this money isn't accurate, and that's just a no no. Like,
Yeah.
can't have to sort that out.
As Ryan said, somebody one day will take them to court, and I think that's when they realize, yo, they have to get their house in order.
Yeah, it's sad that that's the kind of thing that would make
Will
them
move them.
change. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
you'd think that you'd want to be proactive and not, but instead of
not
reactive.
reactive.
But yeah,
I mean, it's just a new paradigm required. It's not. Yeah, probably better. One or two things will have to happen. You're either gonna have to have new. It's one of a few things will usher in a change. New leadership when the
Right.
current leadership has decided to retire. Bear in mind, I'm not saying they must lose their work. I think they're fine. I think Marlene should see out the rest of her time. That's one. Two, as you said,
Definitely.
some litigation. I'm not recommending that either. Full transparency. Most broker dealers are shareholders and directors of the Jamaica Stock Exchange. So I'm not on the board and I'm not privy to their discussions at the board level, so I'm not conflicted. But that's important to know. The other one, which I fancied, but I don't know if it's time for it yet, is the introduction of another stock exchange. Yeah, the NYSE, and then you had NASDAQ that came after. A lot of the tech guys listed on NASDAQ. NYSE, I think, was 170 years older than NASDAQ or something like that, 112. I mean, maybe if there were, imagine if you had new listings being being
Mm.
competed for by the respective stock exchanges. Sometimes competition can be a hell of a thing. I know this made me get a nice little cuss off from them, but I'm not gonna stop saying it. I think sometimes the entrance of competition can be helpful. I don't think anything needs to be monopolized, but there may be some law around it. I don't, maybe not, but that can bring change too. Sometimes you just have to disrupt things. I think young people are here to disrupt and to challenge established orders, and I, frankly, think it may be required. Maybe not. I mean, as I said before,
Mm-hmm.
I think we made the 3 or 4 IPOs, APOs, rights issues this year. Why do we have to necessarily go to one? Because we go to company's office, we go to FSC, maybe we decide which exchange we want to be on. Do we call it a frontier market, frontier, Jamaica Frontier Exchange, including that, So we take Jamaica out of it in terms of the name. So I think these are all these are the things that are first world in how they are designed. The thought of it. Multiple exchanges, the first world thing. That's not banana republic thinking. That's thinking about like in the big leagues. So maybe that, but yeah, it needs to. The investor base is outrunning the
Yeah.
oversight across the board. The oversight body's capacity to regulate them, and I think for as long as that continues to be the case, and it only seems to be getting more extreme, radical changes are needed at each. We've already seen it
Yeah.
with the FSC, and the BOJ in light of all of this drama with SSL and whatever. But some people been calling it for a long time. David Rose has been one. I've said my fair share to the extent that I can, and I think others share the view. They may not be as outspoken as I am, or they may be conflicted. But some of them beat me up for it. But so I go, I'm still a talk. No, stop talk. No, stop talk. So it's too. I suppose I can just get into this a bit. Tell you something, my journey was. I remember I came in the business and I was very intent on seeing what lanes existed and seeing
Mm-hmm.
how it could make a difference in the lives of others without, what's the word? I don't without following established norms. And more it became evident that the lane of stock brokerage locally was wide open because one, it was really the source of competitive advantage between myself and other advisors. Two, it would be a landscape I could compete on globally, especially when I went to that brokerage house that offered US stocks and got to learn about them there. And I really, with my type A personality self, took it on myself to become an expert in the space because the really rich people in the country have US dollars. And yeah, you can do so much with Jamaica. I mean, the US is where the action is. You can only buy so many bonds. Imagine if you're just selling bonds now, you're dead, right? So I spent 11 years selling US stock, learning about the market, making money for clients, losing money in COVID and rebounding and whatever. So against that backdrop in this landscape,
Mm-hmm.
my expectations are first world because I know what happens in the first world. So you can't have the market opening late and apologizing. If that happens in the US, you get sued, brethren. Facebook started to trade late after it was listed. Nasdaq paid $10 million to the SEC as a fine because the stock started to trade late on the day it listed. It's not, how people would know companies listing. And I would say like the night before my enough sell, oh, we're listing Regency in the morning.
Yeah, there's no.
Or somebody would see the ticker on J Trader on the night before. I'm like, oh, this listing in the morning.
Can't
You
do
can't do
that.
that. That is not in keeping with universal access to information and transparency, which is what underpins the market. If you don't have what they call in economics perfect knowledge, where everybody has the same access to the same type of
Hmm.
information, you're going to erode trust.
Yeah.
And a market is built on trust. The consumption of food is based on trust. You're not expecting the meal to poison you. You expect when you open a can that you're opening something healthy because you cannot check every particle or
Yeah.
molecule in there. We are merchants of, well, I am a merchant of information and implied trust. No overseas investor is expecting there to be any due diligence issues because they expect that because the company is listed and presumably in good standing by the JSE that is worthwhile, that its audited financials can be taken seriously. Otherwise, the minute that question is raised, that's the end of
Yeah.
that for you. And sometimes, I mean, I accept we've come a long way, right? And expectations may have changed. Maybe some things they could have gotten away with in 2000, they
Hmm.
can't do anymore. There's a lot of change in 22 years. So, or 23 years, I accept that. But guess what? The game has changed. So, whether it is wholly for change or not, it don't matter. It has changed. And everybody has to now adjust. I was kind of a little annoyed at them the other day. I'm going to tell them, son. I mean, look of vibes. Nothing to do with trading and whatever. I'm like, guys, we can't do business like that in this day and age. And they say, yes, you need to forgive and whatever, man. Oh boy. I was
Yeah.
pissed. Yeah, I was pissed. You know what I mean? But I don't know, man. I think we're getting there. We're getting there. It's not as
Hmm.
bad as it was. It's not what it was, but we have to keep advancing it because the beauty is as more listings come, the
Yeah.
demands are going to be greater because you have more interest. So Wisinko, Ferdinand Mahfood passed, I think, recently, yesterday, or whenever it was, who is William's uncle, Andrew's uncle, one of the founders of Wisinko. Wisinko made a public notice. William did on Twitter. I don't know if that's been disclosed by JSC yet. Should that be disclosed? Okay, he's not a director, but it could be information the market would be interested in knowing about. You
Yeah.
see where I'm going with it? It's even if it's a public notice, not necessarily a company notice. How do you treat
Hmm.
with
The
that?
ambiguity.
For instance, ambiguity. Exactly. How do you treat with related party trades? Are they disclosed quickly enough? I mean, I remember I saw, what was it?
I knew, yeah,
Purity.
I
This
knew
might
it
have
was
been November
I saw
2020.
it too. I saw it too. We sent it in our group, and we were like, this is a joke. This is a joke. It
Yeah.
must be a typo."
Purity,
Let me pull it up. Let me pull it up right now.
right? Related party sell shares date like June
No,
2021
oh,
or
I found
something.
it.
And I'm like,
November. It said between the period November 2021 to February last year, and this is a whole new year after, you're telling me?
It's no, that's
Slackness.
you can't do that. That's
Yeah.
What?
not good enough.
There's no penalty
That
for
is
that?
slack. That is slack. That is slack. That don't make sense. You understand what I'm saying? And I listen, in the US now, they give you, I'm not saying we need to do earnings forecast, right? But if a company has an issue, they give you an earnings warning,
Mm.
right? If like the other day when Apple made their privacy changes. I don't know if they were earnings warnings, but definitely Snapchat when they reported any disaster. Anyway, they said that they expected a downturn in revenues because of Apple's privacy policy and blah blah blah, asking for permission to expose users to advertisements based on their preferences and to get permissions. Right, everybody tanked. That's what one of the things that the Facebook's tanking. Snapchat, any firm based on
Mm.
advertising
Mm-hmm.
revenues
Because
get
yeah,
it.
it would affect iPhones. Yeah.
Right? Disclosure. So I don't think it's malicious on their part, and I would never say they're incompetent because that's not it either. But that appreciation for the new normal is
Mm-hmm.
what's missing, and that is how I think they need to catch up. Anyway, so I'm on this drink. Do you have anything you want to ask me? Because
Um, Something I
I
want to
don't
know,
know.
like you were speaking about NCB earlier,
Sure.
right? And I think we even spoke about JMMB,
Mm,
just like a lot of the, I guess, financial stocks and stuff like that. Um, a lot of them are
yeah.
down from, or they have either been in a downward trend for probably the last 2 3 years. What do you think would
Mhm.
cause a turnaround of, for example, some of those stocks like the NCBs, the Panjams, those things? Like, what do you think would it would take for them to go back to their previous highs?
It's a pretty good question. I think after examining what caused the lows, I think I think all of them had their falls because of what's the word I'm looking for? If I'm not mistaken, their loan books were under pressure because of potential
Or the
defaults resulting
Mm-hmm.
ECLs?
from
The
COVID
ECLs hit a
and
lot of the financial institutions. Yeah.
moratorium details, right? And moratoriums on or payment holidays for a lot of their facilities and question as to whether they be
Yeah.
defaults or not. Here's my thought, and it's a bigger picture thought. I think commercial banking has been forever disrupted. It started, it started with the introduction of the microfinance guys. That's really what started to impact commercial banking.
Competition.
In fact, so much so, I remember 2000 and I don't know, sometime 2010 or whenever, I said if Scotia wanted to grow, they should try and buy access. Now, my personal view is had Scotia's CEO, Bill Clark, been there, I think that would have potentially
Mm.
materialized, right? But the point I'm making is commercial banking, remember, commercial banking met a need. I think sometimes we look at systems and we don't look at what the system is designed to do because the system is designed to meet a particular need, then it's really not about the system, but more the need, if you get where I'm going. So, in other words, people need
Mm-hmm.
capital, right? Loans or whatever for private enterprise to buy a car, buy land, buy a house, you know, home improvement, travel, leisure, recreational things, etc. If there was another mechanism to provide persons with capital, that eliminates banks.
Yeah.
It's kind of why. investment bankers have now become more competitive and why so many banks feel compelled to have investment banking as a part of their offerings because them can't catch you with a formal loan as your company when Limitless grows to become a $3 billion enterprise. Then they're competing with me for your
Mm-hmm.
business because they're saying, "Oh well, you will do a fundraise for them, a Series A, Series B, Series F, whatever number it is. They don't want to have to pay us monthly. So, how much is your firm value? Let's buy you. You come into us, absorb you, and then we can." The big bank can get revenues from me because of the access I would provide, which is essentially capital, right? The point I'm making is I think at the core of it, commercial banking and institutional, retail and corporate banking have been disrupted, right, by alternative providers of capital. The collateral has been disrupted as well because no, it's only a very archaic institution is going to say, I'm going to take your
Yeah.
house as security for your business, right? Because if you think about it, your
With the
house
business,
really not have nothing
exactly.
to do with the business,
Nothing. Mm-hmm.
right? And the second I list the business, you will have your entire net worth in a liquid stock I can get cash for in
Mm-hmm.
2 days. The bigger question is, how will I see them recovering and going back to that? I think they can go past their highs. I think NCB will go past its highs of prior day because of Guardian and because of
Mm-hmm.
Link, not because of
Yeah.
NCBJ, right? Insurance is going to provide them with capital to deploy and to buy into other institutions. Link is at the forefront of disruption as far as it concerns
Yeah.
digital transactions. They did $1 billion in cumulative transactions the other day, and hopefully that
Mm-hmm.
continues to grow. So the question is not so much about what an NCB would need to do to get back to where it's coming from. I don't think that's difficult because they're still leaders. The question is, what's a JMB gonna do?
Yeah.
They're not a
Exactly.
commercial. They're not a commercial bank. I mean, you tell me what's their lead, their forefront offering. Is it commercial? Is it retail? Is it investment banking? What is it? Is it insurance? Yes, I think they're all things to all people, and they're bloody nice. They're like incredible people. But what do they hang their hat on? I hang my hat on being
Mm-hmm.
a stockbroker. That's what I am. I'm a stockbroker. Forget everything else. I'm a stockbroker, right? What is it going to mean for Sagicor? Okay, Sagicor is insurance, no worries. What does it mean for Scotiabank
Mm,
if you have commercial banking being
yeah.
disrupted? Right? So I guess the short answer is I see consolidation being the order of the day. I see there being two or three really large players, and then you're going to have players under them providing access to capital in various ways. I could foresee microfinance player, and remember, microfinance and digital lending are going to clash, because the fruit vendor doing business with Link is going to probably borrow from a dollar, so they're going to clash,
Well,
or they're not going to clash. They're going to
yeah.
overlap, or they're going to be competing in the same lane, right? Because don't feel no way, is not the man you see wearing jacket and tie making the money. That's why I stopped wearing jacket and tie. Let's have board meetings. Is the brethren in the shots, right? I hustle fruits. I make the
Mm-hmm.
money in a bus. Trust me, that's if it's one thing I learned in sales very early is the wholesale, right? I didn't want to say that because this is a public thing. That's it off there. The wholesale, right? The people that run liquor shops is
Mm-hmm.
them have the money. So how you think I build my business? I be going, you find me some odd ends, and a man say, yeah man, him dust off a man and come in them office one side and turn on fan and whatever. I'm say, all right, what you say now? Sign this, sign this, sign this. I'm gone. The people you walk past, you don't even know. So you go to dealerships. Sometimes I want to give away some of these guys and when I drive a nice Prado or some of them start buy X6 now and all that. Cash in some cases. The man say, all them people buying X6.
Cash.
When bank is like a struggle for payback where I forget cheap loan and can never left the bank in them whole life. Them people make the money. You know what I'm saying? That is that is Jamaica's wealth. Jamaica's wealth is not. Why you think you see the white panel van them uptown with five Asians in it? That's them
Mm,
making the money. That's where the money is. So the point I'm making is that market will easily shift from commercial banking past a certain point of reliance. And I mean, as I said to you before, banks will now have to rely on a unique value proposition to go forward. I can say for us or whichever firm I'm affiliated with, we'll get a lot of stock brokerage work and investment banking work because that's what I do. That's my point. That's my value
Mhm.
proposition. None of the rest of them doing that. Not the way we are. That's why we've dominated the market. Thank God and thank the clients that trust us and we deliver for them. But people gonna have to find their areas and their lanes to create exceptional value and opportunities. So as I said before, there's no natural rebound coming. If I'm buying a financial institution, I'm buying NCV because one, as I said before, life insurance is like the cheapest guarantee of of financial security. Like, I mean, if especially if you're young and healthy, like, and I mean, just don't make them oversell you on stuff. I mean, if you can get a $50 million policy for like 5 grand a month at 22, come on, guys, like that's a giveaway.
mm,
You know what I'm saying? That is a giveaway. Cause you might say, yeah, it's a lot, and listen, I hold no brief for an insurance person. You know, my wife isn't in insurance. I'm just being honest. Like I would never mislead people. It is it is fair exchange. Because the worst thing you can have is somebody dying and they don't have insurance. It's like it's like free money with all due respect. So with NCB having this heavy regional presence, I think that will augur well for them. So I buy NCB and Link, as I said before. But broadly, I mean, Panjam is doing the finance. Yes, they're 30% on Sagicor, but remember, they were buying them Sagicor shares at $2.
mm.
They bought last block at 9.
Wow.
Yep.
So it was an extraordinary gain. They bought it as a distressed asset and they sold it. So I'm not worried about Panjam. They're investors, so they'll be actually Panjam's a pretty good buy, except for the Sagicor exposure, but Sagicor's insurance, so
What do you think of the
they'll
deal
be all
with
right.
JP and Panjam?
Mm, yeah.
That was
Good deal. Good deal.
quite a hot deal.
Good deal. I think it's gonna. I don't think the market has fully appreciated what
Hmm.
that deal is gonna mean,
Yeah.
and I think it's gonna. Yeah, I think that's gonna. We're gonna look back one day and be like, "Boy, that was really a watershed moment." I think that's a good deal. It's a big deal.
Yep.
It's a good deal.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
It's a good deal. Those guys have put their time in, and they're positioned to take advantage of any opportunity of any size now. And I can tell you, as somebody who like I go across the region just with a suitcase sometimes, and I have no idea where I'm going to this country to do, and I just go fill my itinerary with stuff. Trust me when I tell you, there is a lot of business to be done across this region because the thing is, and it's really all it people suffer from, it's just not being willing to try. I mean, I got a deal that I've been working on for about 4 years now. Stock trade actually, which Lord willing closes this year. And when it does, I'll tell you which one it was in particular. It was I went to Barbados. I don't remember how I ended up there in the first place. I was there for something. I don't remember now. It's probably too many flights. Anyway, I was there for something, and I had a day, and I said to a brethren of mine who was there, "Yo, you have anybody who I can talk to? Because I really have free time, and I can't sleep in the hotel room all day." I remember I went there to meet with a fund. Yeah, we did some business with a fund, and I had to, so I was filling the itinerary, and he's like, "Call this guy." I call the guy, puts me on to another guy who owns a business. And I think I know some Jamaicans who would be interested in buying this business. Bring the Jamaicans there, so I go back and the deal doesn't work out. But then it comes back home and we're now trying to do another deal with the guys I brought from Jamaica with a larger Jamaican company.
Uh,
But that would have never happened if I wasn't in Barbados gallivanting. Right. And so then when this closes, it's going to look amazing, but it just was born out of
mm-hmm.
exploring, and state of adventure. So the point though is with them having this large war chest, they'll be able to take advantage of a number of opportunities. Remember as well, I don't have the statistics before me, but in the Caribbean, a lot of founder owned and led businesses are going to change hands. Some are going to shut down, some are going to have new ownership, some are going to list, right? No, and this could be businesses of all sizes because remember, a lot of the ethnicities involved, their kids may live overseas now. Miami, New York, LA, living the high life. These guys are rich. But the parent company in the region is there and nobody's taking it over. I may be able to get that for three times earnings. What do you think that will look like when I consolidate it in my books and I put
Mm-hmm.
in management? I can't talk to you guys. You guys rich because you got buying.
Bank, bank.
You ain't bank. So that's how
Yeah.
people make money. So Amjam will have access to all of that. JP, same thing.
Massive, massive deal.
Anything else?
Any other stocks you like on the market? Anything catching your eye? Transjam.
Amjam,
Mm,
I like
yeah.
Wigton. I like them too because Transjam, I probably shouldn't have said that. Anyway, Transjam dividend yield 6%. But past that, this acquisition
JIO.
of
Yeah.
whatever it was, the operating company, right? They say it's going to cut the operating costs by
Mm-hmm.
50%. And other thing is the Williamsfield Highway leg is going to add to their revenues. Now, I don't know if you guys have T
I do.
tags on your car. How I gauge a business is how easy they can
Mm-hmm.
get my money. Seeing? Same thing with Amazon. If somebody posts one of them fat kids deal or whatever you
Yeah.
call it on Twitter, I bought a clock for $25
Are you
like that. Somebody
serious?
posts it, I click, yes, I click the link, I click another link, and it was on my Amazon Prime in a
Wow.
minute, right? So that's why I will always be an Amazon buyer at when it's
Mm-hmm.
oversold because it is super convenient. So Transjam, I go through the tag, whatever. I don't join
Same.
lines. Wonderful, right? If I need to top up, I go on the app and I just click top up. My
Yeah.
credit card's there. That's amazing. Do you know what kind of take up? Do you know what that would means for the average Jamaican
And
if
a
they
lot of
take
people
that up?
don't use T tags, and I don't understand why, because it doesn't incur. There's no interest. There's no like cost. Well, they now will implement.
You pay.
No,
No,
I think now they said you
the
have to
point
pay
is,
for the T tag now, but previously you didn't have to pay for anything.
but they don't market properly. Again, it comes back to what we spoke
Yeah.
about at the start. You have this very
Mm-hmm.
convenient thing. It's
Yeah,
not
because
being
you could
marketed.
take out a lot of operation costs from that. You wouldn't if you had three people at the toll booth, right? If a lot of people are using T tags, you may not need three employees. You could just cut one, right? Because it's
Right?
simple.
And then that takes out
Hmm.
so much of the operational
Yeah.
issues that could abound. Now, the logical question. So, like Warren Buffett, I read about he invested heavily
Hmm.
in infrastructure. Now, if there's another toll road in Jamaica, let's say they buy the north south for argument's sake, though it's a different price tag, that's more revenues. But guess what? Every day of the week, somebody's using
Yeah.
that service. Whether there is COVID, no COVID, you can't get COVID in your car. Right? People are going
Yeah.
to use this thing. So that to me is very appealing. And week time, but don't take me very seriously and that 'cause I need to look at the numbers
Hmm.
more closely. But Wigton and I would not hold Wigton and Regency at the same time.
Mm.
So I always gonna Tesco at the same time. I want to hold because it's two sides of the relatively same coin. Because if I'm gonna have, I mean, yes, I understand one is end user, blah blah blah, but that's just my thinking about. If I'm renewable, I'm renewable. If I'm fossil fuel, I'm fossil fuels, and that's really how
Okay.
I would see. But anyway, um, but really, yeah, I mean, I like. I don't like a whole lot right now. I need to see more stuff sold off. I do like Wisynco as a
Hmm.
company. I think they have a long run before them. And I mean, I still like last time. I think it's trading very attractively. I know they're gonna pay a serious dividend this month
Hmm.
whenever they meet. I mean, the checks keep getting bigger, and as long as the price stay down there, I mean, last time should be like $9 now. So,
Hmm.
$4, I mean, in the longer it stays, I hinted at it in my email. I
Yeah.
can say it now. The longer it stays that low, is the more attractive it becomes
Hmm.
to a buyer. And I mean, there's value if you can go anywhere in a country and say Alaska and somebody
Yeah.
knows it. But, you're probably not going to
It's not like on the
appreciate
balance
that
sheet as much.
when the price is at $4.
I say that something like that isn't on the balance sheet. So if
It's
someone was
not.
even gonna come in and acquire them,
No, it's not. Exactly. So it's a matter of for how long, but then we know they have an engine
Yeah.
owner and they're right. They have no debt. They have this massive warehouse right outside the
Hmm.
ferry belt. So I mean, it's and I don't like last D or last F. I like
Hmm.
last M. Their margins are like 16%. It's. I mean, it's. I want to see what they're going to do now with no long term debt because I mean, I got some dividends years past. I could use a check
Yeah.
that big now.
Hmm.
Another big check. Very happy about that. So I mean, I like those. I like 1 3 as I said before. My mother said to me she got a dividend check, so she can pay her light bill with
I
it.
love that.
And
You can go back to that with Cinco point that you said you like with Cinco. Um, do you like the price now then? I think it's what 16. I'm not sure what.
I don't know what the PE is for them at
14, or it's
16.
$17 and the PE is 14 right now.
Mm.
It's not bad.
I remember there's one point I liked with Cinco, but I think I was expecting a lot more from them, not necessarily profit wise, because they were. I mean, I think last year it was their highest earning year ever in terms of like
Yeah, I think so.
revenues, right? Uh, last year was really good for them. I think they made almost 40. I think it was about $40 billion in revenue for last year with Cinco.
What's
Yeah,
it called?
let me check it. Hold on.
Mm.
39, I
Oh,
think.
mhm.
Yeah, 39 billion. Yeah.
Wisynco is going to be an acquirer of
And
companies.
I would like to see that because I've been seeing. You look on their balance sheet, they have a ton of cash, a few $1 billion, well, almost $10 billion in cash, and I'm looking for Wisinka's next step, and I just don't know if it's. I don't know if it's what I don't know what the management is thinking. I'm not. I don't really hear much from them as to what they're doing with the cash on board because they're not heavily
There,
leveraged. It's so I'm wondering
there's
what's
they spoke about a huge some big
the
plans that they have, you know.
distribution.
No, not just
Uh,
distribution. Like they said, so they wanted to upgrade their the Lakes Pen facility. So they said there was a lot of different upgrades they wanted to do. They wanted to put in a power generation plant, warehousing, factory space. They were going to increase the size.
Oh, they did
yeah,
that
No,
they
already.
I
they
think they're
did
going
Okay.
to.
that.
No. They
Read
said
the
they're going to
prospectus.
even expand it more. So, for example, they said in an article, I'll send an article after, in an article
Mm.
February this year. They said they wanted to add 200K square feet to their existing 600K square feet. So that'd be like a 33% increase. And then they're, yeah.
The factory.
And they said
The
that they've
warehouse.
even put a price tag on it for 5 billion on new machinery and plant upgrades. So they have some plans, and then they also tend to speak a lot about exports, you know. So my thing is that I think what they're gonna do is just make it so that
Yeah.
they can just supply more markets and just expand regionally and even internationally, maybe.
Oh, Ryan.
But they never spoke about
Pardon me?
cogen.
Oh
Sorry,
yeah,
stay
I
on. You
was I
say
was just
something?
saying you're a football fan. I don't know if you saw that picture where you
Yeah.
see Kevin De
Oh, yeah,
Bruyne
yeah, sorry. The Bruyne. I think
controlling the pineapple bigger. Yeah,
uh,
yeah. I mean, I would love to see Wisinko exporting more.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's the thing is they keep growing so much locally that they don't have the spare capacity to export.
yeah,
Let me tell you, Jamaica, but I mean, I don't know the dynamics well, right? When you go and look in a supermarket shelf now, you see a ton of locally made
yes.
beverages. 15 years ago, that wasn't the case.
Mm,
So now you're starting to see the shift from imported from Trinidad, and there's no, I mean, our business connects in Trinidad. It's love, no issues. I have to be clear about that. But where I'm going with it is the shift, the shift towards local consumption has meant these guys gaining
mm-hmm,
market share. So a lot of their production has been geared towards local
mm-hmm.
end users, right? And that has been a big thing behind the growth you're seeing and their lack of exports. I think when they IPO, they were doing 1% of revenue in
Mm-hmm.
exports, right? And so all the growth you're seeing is driven within Jamaica. Jamaican consumption capacity is
Yeah,
high, Our GDP is stymied because we don't have a lot of what I consider secondary markets. So it will extract minerals, but we're not processing the minerals,
we send away the raw
right?
materials.
If we were processing the minerals, exactly, our GDP per capita grows
Mm-hmm,
significantly. And just and by virtue of that remaining year. So the more things we're able to provide along the value chain, it's will all go well to our benefit. So the point is, at a very basic level, our capacity to consume, especially at our price point, is remarkable. I mean, in the other islands, and I mean, I'm not equipped enough with the necessary skills to assess it. I mean, when I go to other islands, which I do a fair bit, I there's a lot more. There's a much broader offering base at like at a restaurant level, at services level, for instance. And you have like proper high end restaurants. I don't think we'll have five of that type locally, but you have a ton of them
mm-hmm.
across the region, right? But at the consumer products level, it's the same thing, right? But it just goes to show the further I think you climb from a base is where you really start to capture that increase per capita consumption. The point though is juices, it's an education to drink a juice, right? So at that point within our society, we have whole heap of spare capacity. So as we shift more away from the regionally produced, what's the word, SKUs, then we'll continue to grow. That's probably why Lasco has been, growing locally as well for that very
Hmm.
reason.
Yeah. Something I'd like to see them do. Well, I guess almost all manufacturing companies in Jamaica, one of the things that I think limits them is really just our electricity cost. I'd like to see more of them
Yeah.
pushing into more renewable sources. So, for example, with Cinco I don't remember which year, but maybe it was like 2019 or 2018. They had set up a large LNG plant,
Hmm.
and then oh, and then that
Yeah.
um, initially the plant was saving them a lot of money, and even I think to now it still saves them money. But one of the issues was that yeah, you switched off of oil. But then when you switch to LNG and you look at the price of what LNG's price has also skyrocketed since. So it's like you missed out on that possible cost savings versus maybe if they had also not even not saying that they didn't necessarily have to build an LNG plant at all, but maybe if you had also tried to incorporate
Right.
some other source of renewable energy, that could have even worked out better for them. So I think, and then that ties back to the same point that you're talking about, like things like Wigton or tropical stuff like that. That I think is a huge opportunity for Jamaica, the region, just the whole world. That over the next few years, the the how we're all trying to be more green and more save the environment, doing those things which are
Mm.
good. It's nice because it's like you can invest in something that you can make money from, but then you can also be helping like the world to reduce green.
Environment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's like a win-win. Yeah, that
Yeah.
is a win-win.
I think Usinko may have mentioned in their report, and I say may because it should have been there, that their energy costs but had fallen initially, but their cogen plant was
Yeah,
down
it
for
was
two
done. Yeah.
months, and
Mm,
a substantial payment to
Hmm.
JPS having gone back on the grid.
yeah,
So I don't know if it was a price element. I think it went
yeah.
down.
I
Check and
don't think
see,
it was the
but
most
that's my
recent
what I
report, but
recall.
it might have been.
Yes,
Yeah,
The one,
I think I remember
one of
that
them.
disclosure.
It
Yeah.
was.
I remember it too. Yeah.
That wasn't due to. That was just due to it
Hmm.
going down. So I think one of the things the cogen plants have come to learn is they don't run like clockwork. In other words, it's a super technical process that requires the hiring of a number of engineers, and so that's an expense. And faults can be prohibitively expensive from the standpoint of they're going down, requiring parts to bring them back up into operation. And in the interim, based on their footprint of usage or their energy usage, can cause them to be, for lack of a better term, abused by JPS. So I'll say this in theory, wonderful. But as I become more acquainted with the outworking of it, it is a, what's the word I'm looking for? It is a more tricky
Mm.
undertaking. But absolutely, I think it's warranted. I think Lasco may have invested in a facility of some sort, separate
Mm.
as well. Red
Even
Stripe, though, no longer
GK
publicly
is doing
listed
some
as well.
stuff recently. Like I think they're setting up some new,
But they do
yeah, like a
solar
high low or
panel,
something,
yeah. So
something like that.
I think so, or
And
an
that's obviously that's a
HQ and
big
like
that's
that. So
something
I
that they're
think,
gonna have to really push towards, because if they're gonna be listing or when they list on the overseas stock exchange, a big thing with I guess institutions now is they have ESG requirements.
Mhm.
So that's
yeah,
go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah, ESG audits and all that. Yeah, no doubt. I think yes, worthwhile. But listen, the end of the day, right? One of the things that I think factor into the local way of doing business is it's a high margin environment. So yes, we have energy costs, but then our prices can be a bit more aggressive. Our margins are better. It's almost like the example was in real estate overseas. You do a project out here successfully, you make a ton of money. USA, you're making 3% because it's such an efficient
Mm-hmm.
market. So some of the very inefficiencies that exist create
Mhm.
margins on the back end, but
Yeah.
there's a headache,
Well, that's where the money's made.
right? With
That's where the money's made.
exactly. So I don't think a lot of people are going to be in too much of a rush to change
Mm-hmm.
it too quickly, because if you have a completely efficient market, you don't have the opportunity to make outsized returns anymore. And guess what? Were it not so, there would be no reason for Trinidad players to be coming more close or coming more closely to their Jamaican counterparts, and that's what's happening.
Mm.
And yeah, and I think time will tell a lot more where that's concerned. And I think the landscape is uniquely positioned. For me, Michael Eachinson, there's a lot more money in making something inefficient efficient. So I look for
Yeah.
inefficiencies and see how they can be made efficient. And I try to get myself somewhere in the middle of that. I don't need to get all right. I just need to be somewhere in the
Mhm.
midst of it. If we had a if we had this super sophisticated stock brokerage environment, there's no
Yeah.
money for me. It's not there. And for the extent that it doesn't last, it remains that way, then fine. And I see any young youth I study hard and look like him when I emerge, me I hire him first before, and come pick up
Yeah.
my foot. Because I have 25 more years in this emerging, I think man, that should I say,
Camps.
man.
Well, Ryan, we've been talking for 2.5 hours.
It's been a while, yeah, it's
And
been
I'm
a
sure you
while.
just came
It's
off
been
the
a
jet,
while.
so I know you must be tired.
Uh,
Well, I just want to thank you for coming on the show again. Really appreciate you always taking your time out and giving us all of this. I mean, this is a Limitless exclusive. I mean, as you say, we're the first people you've spoken to about 138 and
yep,
the possible APO and so on. So we appreciate that and would love.
the likely APO, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, we hope to see you again soon.
Hmm.
Yeah, man, as I said, keep in touch. We have a lot to follow up on it. I think there will be some
Okay.
news shortly.